Hello everyone, Caren Glasser here, and welcome to today's episode of Connecting People, Changing Lives. I am excited to be here with my amazing co-host, Nancy Ferrari. Good morning, Nancy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well, thank you very much. Just like me and so many people out there in this country, as I shared earlier, we've got this funky little virus going on, but you know what? Today was the day I'm showing up, and I want to really be in this conversation with our very special guest. And I have to say that I had the privilege of meeting Teri Hockett last weekend, and her presentation just blew me away. And both Caren and I knew that we wanted to have her on our show to share her with our viewers because she has so much to offer, so much to share. And as a woman who worked in the corporate world and then as an entrepreneur, I've already gained so much, and I know I'll learn even more. So without further ado, Teri Hockett is the founder, owner, and chief empowerment officer of What's for Work. She helps women identify their career blueprint. Love that, for success. And she helps you define where you are right now, where you want to be, and how to get there. We're also going to be talking about several different topics, expanding on that, but also, so let's see if I can say it, social reciprocity. So with that said, I warmly welcome you, Teri Hockett, to Connecting People, Changing Lives.
Well, thank you, Nancy and Caren, so much for having me on today. I just adore the two of you and what you're doing and how you're helping women really get comfortable with technology and putting their message out there.
Well, we're just delighted to have you here. So let's just kind of talk about, this is about you today and about us and how we all show up in the world. But let's talk a little bit about your journey and how, What's for Work actually came into being. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Certainly. So I have a recruiting background, outplacement background, and after my second daughter came along, I took that leap. And my husband was starting up a company, and it was just the right timing to step out of the corporate world and really embrace being a mom. And I was privileged enough and fortunate enough to have that opportunity to do that. And I thought with my background, it'll be easy to go back, right? Well, 16 years go by, and the world had changed drastically. And I'm sending resume after resume into the black hole of the internet, trying to figure out what happened. I not only had no value, I was devalued for doing what I was put on earth to do. And I thought, there's something wrong with this. And I started asking other women, and I identified a problem. So like most businesses, you identify a problem. And because I was raised by an entrepreneur and my husband was an entrepreneur, they said, what are you going to do about it? And that's how What's for Work came about. It was like I found a problem, and I talked to hundreds of women that were feeling the same way. They just didn't know how to have skills. It's everything that we're doing when we're not in the paid workforce, and translate that into value.
So do people come to you actually and you help them find a job, or you give them the skill set so that they can look for a job? How does this work exactly?
So there are people, and I have a lot of resources, so what you're looking for, because I'm in the law of abundance. So if you just want a resume done, I have resume writers, I have contacts for people that want to just update their LinkedIn skills, and recruiters and headhunters. What I like to do is really give you the strategy to control your career from wherever point you are right now to what's the end game. Because what we're finding is that in California alone, 23.4% of Californians are retiring into poverty. That's $24,000 a year for a family of four, and typically when you're retiring,
wow,
you're not a family of four at that point. It was unheard of, and so many of them were women, and they were entrepreneurs, and I thought, how could that possibly be? And they're sitting there going, can I start over? I didn't get the rules. I didn't understand. So I teach them 6 keys to career success, and that from that point, they have it. They can go back at any time. If that business fails or they need to change or transition, they can go back to their worksheets and say, this is where I'm at, update it, have the tools to strategically move forward in their career, not just their job, not just their company, their career, so that they're retiring into that life that they dream of, that they want.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I just want to share with you, and I hope this is of inspiration to others, because I get this all the time. People knew me as working in law for 20 years, and then that was it. And then it was the now what syndrome, and meeting people like you, supportive people, learning, and then putting it together. They go, why you're busier than you've ever been? And I said, because I'm doing what I love. And in the baby boomer generation, I feel is a force to be contended with, because we've had that experience, and that's what I know you're younger than us, but me, I'll speak for me. But what I'm saying is that, and I brought this to you before, is that with you being up in the Bay Area, and my daughter graduated from UC Berkeley, they did not have the systems in place other than interning maybe before your senior year and maybe getting in there, that what your blueprint, how you give them that the tools, but also the polish and the confidence. Like when you mentioned resumes, interviews, oh man, when I was younger, that threw me before I'd freeze. It's like sometimes the screen does. Like, whoa. And then you start talking nonsense. But that is so crucial for what you do for women, whether they're in the college age, coming back to work, second careers, that you give them that opportunity to be very ready. Am I correct?
Right. It is. It's all about understanding exactly where you're at and where you want to go. Understanding, and I know I get a lot of interest in this one, but a man is not a plan. They're a great thing to have. I've been married for 30 years in next month. 30 years, oh my gosh. Absolutely, it's a partnership, and love him dearly, but if there was something that would happen, and you look around, how many of you, if it hasn't happened to you, that you know people in your circle, death, divorce, disability, retirement, layoffs, oh, and by the way, the economy that kicked us in the butt a few years ago, we can't rely on anybody else. As a woman, it's your responsibility, and the only way, we keep saying we want equality, but we don't show up. Meaning, if there's a financial meeting with your financial planners, oh, you go, honey, I'll take care of the kids. No, it's your responsibility to be there. And it's your responsibility to understand that if something were to happen, that you could go back and take care of your family, because there are so many women now that are raising families on their own. They need to know they have the resources, they have the capability and the confidence to go out there and earn a sustainable living.
That is so powerful what you're saying. I mean, truly, because I'm sure that we all know people that have found themselves in that kind of situation, and just like, oh my gosh, I just have nothing that I'm able to actually do. What do I do now? It's really great to know, Teri, that there are people like you and your company that are really helping that people, women in particular, take that next step and to be able to go out and show up and make a living and support their families. I mean, it's just, or support themselves, for that matter, just to support themselves. That's pretty powerful. You know, we mentioned earlier that you talk about and social reciprocity.
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, let's define social reciprocity. What is social reciprocity?
So you take the word social off, and the reciprocity is when you give with the expectation of getting something in return. The social part is what women entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs as a whole, we're always told to go give free content, go get, put yourself out there without the expectation of return. So when you're blogging and you're sharing your information, or you are helping somebody, What's for Work is a site where women come in looking for work or transition, but then we have the companies come in and they can engage on the forums and help the woman as far as, how do I write this on my resume? Does anybody know anybody who works at this company? So they're helping them on something that it's non-related to what they do, but it allows them to engage with them on that emotional level, solving one of their needs or helping them along the way, and then they're more likely to be your best brand ambassador because you have helped them. So when you give without that expectation of return, that social part, you really are getting so much more in return.
So let's talk about weighing, visibility opportunities, because I know, and we were talking about this before the show started, that so many people, and maybe it's a fear thing, don't take advantage of the opportunities to become visible. Why do you think that is, and what do we do about that?
Well, if you look at on LinkedIn, and how many women that don't even post their picture, and there's that fear of putting themselves out there. So really knowing that you are who you are, and you want people to get to know, like, and trust you. So having that current picture out there and getting your message very clear. Have them at hello. We talked about this a little bit before, but when you have that elevator pitch, we always talk about that 90 seconds or 30 seconds that you have to really tell about your business. Get them engaged with you and have them really pull in and want to ask more questions. So it's not about throwing everything at them and they're sitting there going, okay, I get it, and they want to walk away. You want to give them enough that they're going, wow, tell me more.
So how do people make that decision as to whether they should jump at that particular opportunity or not?
So really understanding what the opportunity is for you. And so step back and go, what is that target audience that they're reaching, and what is my ideal client? Do they make sense? Because if you're taking a speaking engagement, say at a Rotary Club, and it's predominantly men and it's not in your area, and yet you're traveling down to do that, it's not a good fit. If nobody is a target market in there, then why are you doing this? Because you don't just need experience. So really know your needs. Who do you need to connect with? Who are your power partners? What does your ideal client look like? And where are they getting their information? So if they are at events, those are the events you want to be at. If they are on reading different blogs, that's where you want to be connecting with. If they are watching podcasts or radio shows, then that's the one. So you really need to know where they're getting their information and go after those opportunities. And when you make that pitch, it's not, well, I want to be on your show, and they'll say, oh, great, what do you talk about? Oh, I'll talk about anything. No, know your message.
I'm losing my earphone on that one.
How many times do you have this show and people go, well, I want to be on your show, and you're like, great, what do you want to talk about? I don't care, I'll talk about anything. Well, that doesn't help me. You need, as somebody that wants to be on a show, I need to know what my message is so that you can say whether it resonates with you and your clients and your audience.
Absolutely.
So show up, get your message very clear, know who it's supposed to go to.
2 thumbs up on that one. Clarity is so important, and that is a huge blessing that I've learned throughout radio show hosting. Is if they're not clear on what I'll use authors. I love authors. I'm writing my book right now too. So when I go to be on a radio show, I will be crystal clear as to how I want to be introduced. We reserve that right because a host can go into a website, mix up words, and all of a sudden they're presenting you in a light, because those, you're saying with the resume, an employer is going to look at that, right? And
right.
If it's not clear to them or it's not in form, that could end up over there on the bottom of the pile. Same with interviewing skills.
Right.
You are presenting, but there doesn't need to be the fear with it. It just takes practice and getting comfortable in your skin. And that's what when Karen and I were offering video opportunities, the women that came up, they definitely knew their
pitch.
Their elevator speech, and they were jumping at the chance. So if for women out there, and I know we're all in agreement, if you go to an event and there's an opportunity that someone gives you, take it. What have you got to lose?
Yes.
It's practice. And practice at home with your iPhone. You can record yourself and stop the inner voice, right?
Exactly.
And Karen pointed that out with me when we started this. This is new to me. But now as we go on and on, I am me. This is what you see is what you get.
One of the things that I hear from people all the time, because I'm in this medium and I've been in this medium for years, is oh my gosh, I hate the way I look on video.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself, trying to be nice about it and saying, like, snap out of it. You look exactly how you look. I mean, people are seeing you just how they see you in real life. And so it's a fear factor of being in front of a camera or being in front of a microphone and, oh my gosh, what if I look weird? And you know what, just relax and just be yourself and just show up. So, we've mentioned a couple of times right now an elevator speech or an infomercial. Let's give a definition for that right now, because there may be people that are listening or watching and saying, I don't even know what they're talking about. What is an elevator pitch? So Teri, you want to give us your definition of what an elevator talk would be?
Definitely. It's something that says who you are and what you represent and what is your unique value that you are bringing forth. So one of mine, and because depending upon your audience and who you're dealing with, is I help women in career transition, those that stepped out of the workforce that didn't get the memo about leaning in and need to have a place to understand their employed by life skills. So now I've put in a lot of these key words where people can go, tell me more about employed by life, or I say lean in. They didn't get the memo about leaning in because that's in the media and people get that. And it starts to really resonate. And the first time I really got a feedback on this, I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and I had said when I launched my company, I'm never speaking in public. This was not something I was going to do. And as you know, I've been doing this quite a bit. And so these two gentlemen, they were standing against the wall, and I'm a little nervous because I know I have to go in and speak. And they go, so they had that little lady moment, so what brings you here? And they could have just added little lady. That was the kind of the intonation I was getting out of it. And I'm standing there, and I put my shoulders back, and I said, I help women in career transition. And they both leaned back, crossed their arms, crossed their legs, and I thought, wow, now that's interesting. So I leaned in. I literally leaned in and I said, I guess you probably both have had a mother, maybe some sisters, wife, daughters. And they're like, yes. And I said, did they ever have trouble getting back into the workforce? And literally, they just were all over me. They got it. They understood from that point forward. So when we are putting our message together, understand 80% of it is how you made them feel. They're not going to remember how you looked or what your exact words were, but how did you make them feel? What did you engage with them? And so if you don't know your message very clearly and how it relates to others, then it's really hard to get in there and give that pitch. You really have to get behind who you are.
That's amazing. That is such great information. And again, we call it an elevator pitch because technically what we want you to be able to do is from the time it takes you to when you get in an elevator, and if you happen to meet your ideal client, to be able to talk to them and get your point across by the time the elevator gets up to the floor that they're getting out. That's why we call it an elevator pitch. And the other thing that I like to do, Teri, and I don't know how you feel about this, is I like to, when I'm doing my pitch, make it so that people are compelled to ask a question about what you just said, get them engaged with you almost immediately. Have you ever tried that? Have you ever done something like that?
Definitely. So it's not about their pain point, it's about their solution or their success. So many times we lead with pain, and you need to turn it around, turn the perception. We hear pain all the time. I don't watch the news unless I absolutely have to. It's too much. So what can I do for you? How can I serve you? What is your target market? And so if you quickly can't engage them with who you are, then turn it around to them. Because if you can get people talking to you, they're going to like you. It doesn't matter what you say after that. People like to be heard. And so ask them questions and then lead it into, oh, that's an interesting take, because that's one of the areas that I've been working with clients. And so now you have that point where you can do a give and take.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I want to ask your opinion about something. This was a conversation just the other day about knowing who your ideal client is, but then it was taken to a next step further, is what are you doing to be that ideal either coach or strategist to be in alignment with them? Because there could be that out of balance sync. And so defining, and as you said, you wear many hats and you go to different events. And I thought that was I had not I've learned so much in this week. It's amazing. I think the universe is just pouring it forth. But I thought that was an interesting point of view. That what do I need to do to be in even greater service to my clients?
Right. And this is really understanding what are you bringing to the table. So I did a little blog post the other day about tips. And this is really understanding whether you're hiring a coach or you are a coach or consultant, what product or service do you offer? Is it done for the client? Is it done with the client? Or is it done by the client? And all of them are value added. There's not a wrong or right answer, but it's when the expectation is off. When your client is expecting you to come in and sit at their office and do it for them, and that's not the service that you're offering. And there are so many people, I've had people that have gone through the same programs and they have paid a tremendous amount of money, and some are phenomenally successful because they understand this is theory and I need to be the implementer. I need to take this, understand my business, and implement it on my own. Whereas the other ones thought for the price that they were paying, that they would basically come in and sit at their desk and say, okay, this is how you do this is how you do that. So really understanding what you are offering and what does the client want or need in that point in time. And it doesn't mean that you can't change or your different products could change, but it means really making that a match so that everybody walks away getting what they wanted.
Very important, very, very important. And if you are fortunate enough to become a guest on a show, a web TV show, or a radio, a podcast show, it's really important, isn't it, to be a good guest? I mean, and what are the components that make up a good guest? I mean, Nancy and I have done a lot of shows. I know, Teri, you're launching your show, and we're going to talk about it. But what does it take to be a good guest? What would you suggest to our listeners and our viewers?
So first thing, and we've talked about this, is really clearly know your message before you go out there. And then do your research. So what show do you want to be on and why? Know your why so that when you are making that pitch to that show or the people, that you really understand, this is my message, I understand this is your audience, and this is how it would relate, so that you can make those connections. From that point forward, when you get accepted to be on a show, you need to get engaged. The moment they send you things like, I need your bio, I need your headshot, I need, then you ask, get all of that in, and if they need questions, you have to ask, because sometimes some people are just busy. So what do you need from me? Is this a conversation? How long does it go? Block your times out appropriately, check your technology, but then start saying, when can I start promoting it? And so that you have, do you provide me sound bites? Will you provide me a link? How do I do this? And if you don't know, they'll have it. But then you start sharing off of theirs and commenting. So every time that they're putting it on a different social media platform, you're going in there and saying, thank you, I can't wait to be on your show, and then resharing it to your audiences. That's all done beforehand up to the day. Then show up on time. So again, checking your technology, making sure that your messages are clear, that your value adds there, and after as well, making sure that you're thanking them.
And I think we've lost Teri for a few seconds. I'm sure Teri will pop back in.
Yes, she did. I see her head moving.
Oh, no.
That's okay. You know what? The most popular movie continues to be Frozen, so we go with that and let it go. So carry on, because yes, you were providing some very valuable tips as you were heading into the
being on the show.
Because once we end the show, that's not where it ends. That's actually a grand beginning.
Right. You want to be that guest that they ask to come back. And so you're going, if I do all of the things that they need that help them, because this is your business. So if I'm just going in there thinking it's my opportunity, but it's your business, it's Nancy's business, it's Karen's business, this is how they're showing up and getting their message. So how can I support and help you? I mean, I need to make sure that everybody else knows that I have this opportunity, so they're not just listening to our show, but all your future shows.
Absolutely, and this becomes a digital asset, which is in my, my background. I just love that. So these shows, and when you do radio shows, and when you do internet television shows, and when you do guest blog posts, whatever it is that you're doing to get more visibility, these are digital assets that you can use over and over and over again, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and then, 365 days a year. You should be using these assets. It's not done and one and done. It's one and forever, evergreen. I like to say ad nauseum. Sometimes you just can post it out forever and ever. So you want to be using these assets. People that are listening right now and watching the show, I get passionate about this because, we need to be working smarter, not harder. And we need to be creating these things that we can use over and over again, which leads us into, Teri, you're launching a new talk show. Let's talk a little bit about that, an online web television show. What is it called, and what is it going to be about?
So it's Talk with Teri, and I wanted to keep it simple, and just it really was about highlighting women that were doing something, and men, I'm not excluding men, but really it was targeting to that woman that needs that information. So whether it is how do you write your social media profile up? How do you blog? Or how do you show up in the world? What's your visibility? And women, what they're wearing. So it could be anything that has to do with the woman that's just asking questions. And I wanted to do is highlight a lot of other women entrepreneurs that have businesses, products, and services that are of value add. And it's so just having that short 15-minute conversation, a little bit about who they are and what they're bringing, and then really talking about how that relates to their audience. And so that they got little bits of information. And so I'm not sure where it's all going yet. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to take it, and we're doing a lot of post-production on this so that their messages will fly in, and my lovely husband is going to have their colors come in and the different things that will help them really show up and get their messages across. So very much engagement like what you guys are doing, and I so appreciate all of this because it's all about getting that visibility, how getting comfortable having that conversation, and you guys make this so warm and inviting. And so I just want to do it's a little different format, just more short and sweet, and posting it out there so those out there again being evergreen, that they can kind of share with their audience and their message.
So
yes,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Karen.
No, go ahead. That's the whole thing about when we're doing more than two people, we sometimes talk over each other. So Nancy, I apologize. Take it away.
Oh, let me see if I can capture that. I'm just like, we don't do that often, but can you tell how invested we are in what you are sharing? And you know what? I will admit I will lost it, but it's just dangling over my head right here. Okay. But there again, with your show, this was the golden factor. It's that people will wait for that perfect time. And what you said, I captured that little thing. You said, I'm not quite sure how. And I know Karen and I have had that conversation. I've had that conversation myself with my own show. So somebody go, Spirit, you're with me today. It's gonna fly, because sometimes we're not quite in sync, no matter how much we've talked before, and all of a sudden something will come up, and it generally does always work out. Yes. And resist the urge to be in fear of not having your ducks in a row. Right.
I totally love the fact that you're doing this, and that is this the first online TV show that you've done, Teri?
Yes.
So yes. I love this. I love the fact that you're stepping into this and you're doing this the same way that Nancy took the risk and she, jumped in and started doing this. I think it's really important that people can understand that this is something that anyone can do. Anyone can do. Yes. If they come up with what it is that their message, and again we're back to messaging. What do they stand for? What do they do? And they too can do something just like this. Nancy and I do a whole program about this, on how to launch your own online television show, how to get your message, and how to show up in front of the camera, and then how to actually launch the show. Because if you can put something out there that is of quality content, that allows people to get to know you on a true relationship level, so that when they need what it is that you're offering, they're going to say, oh, you know what, I have such a really great connection with Teri. I love what she's doing. I need to connect with her now because now I really need the services. How do you feel about that? I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes, it's all about getting out there. You know, when I first launched the company, I wasn't sure, and this is how I got on Cron 4 News. You had mentioned that a little earlier. I had this patch came to me, and they said, we want to give you 10 of the East Bay patches to help women get back to the workforce. And so we launched Getting Back to Work in 100 Days, helping East Bay women get back to work in 100 days. It was a free program. I had 10 of the East Bay patches promoting it, and I had connected with the media before on LinkedIn, so I sent them a little press release. I'm saying, if you're looking for a feel-good story, this is what we're doing. We're helping East Bay women get back to work in 100 days. And Cron 4 picked it up. Now, I'd never been on the news before. I'm not a PR person, but I thought, what the heck? I got a story, and I need to get exposure. And from that, I kind of like, oh, this is how it's done. And then somebody mentioned Haro, helpareporterout.com. And from there, I got on Huffington Post, Business Insider, Success Magazine, Forbes.com. Another great thing, they run these amazing contests, and they said, what are the top career websites helping women? 100 top. And I'm like, oh, I just launched my company, but you know, my social media guy found it, and he said, let's put our name in. And from that, I didn't make it the first year because we were in the first 100, but they only posted 75. I had a relationship with the person that was putting it on the next year, and so she said, will you start contributing to some articles? So every once in a while, she would say, I'm writing an article on this, going, you know, about women in the workplace, and I would give her some information, and she would post it out, crediting Teri Hockett at What's for Work with the hyperlinks in there, and I started getting all of this national exposure. So it's really, when you know your message and it has to get out there, get over the fear, because they are going to come. If you know the message, they will start knocking on your door.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
I think because the three of us met, and we're in conversation. This is what happens. I'm sorry, Karen, again, but you're inspiring me to remember what I think Karen, you know, Laura Bruno. What she shares out there is get your ask in gear. Don't be afraid. What is the worst outcome? It's maybe not now, and if it's a no, well then maybe it wasn't a good fit. But and then someone else told me is that I'm looking for someone who's looking for me. And that takes on a whole different energy. You say, I met a woman, and she was on my show a couple weeks ago. She, just from a blog, Huffington Post saw it. And she's now she's working with the United Nations. I mean, this is possible for everyone.
Absolutely. And it's not just in terms of visual online, it's also blog posting. I mean, if somebody gives you the opportunity to be a guest poster in somebody else's platform, do it. Do it. Leverage the community so that you can get more visibility. It's just so important that it's not just the visual on the television or on the audio. It's also, you know, your digital blog post that has your call to action or a link back to your site. Just like you said, Teri, you know, it's a link back to your site, and that's just so important. I think we lost Teri. Teri's frozen.
Yeah,
okay.
She's going to come back. I'm going to look
She's
for
going
her.
to come back. She's definitely going to come back.
I do want to share.
I'm back.
She's back.
I'm back. Technology.
Yeah, well, and we do our best with it. But there again, going back to networking is really knowing what it is that who you are wanting to meet, who will bring value to you. And for instance, last weekend, I learned so much, and there's that reverse engineering process going on, but attend those events that you know that are going to help you grow as a person. And then, of course, as we're talking about, defining our business and how we want to be seen in the world. But that is so important. And same with, as you were talking about radio or webcast hosts, I share with people as they're saying, well, you know, I want to do other shows. I said, you have the right to interview the interviewer. If
Yes.
it doesn't feel right, because I've been on some shows and their platform is different. There's no right or wrong or judgment here. It just wasn't a good fit for me. So that is everyone's right to do that as well.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. Teri, how does somebody get in touch with you if they want to find out more about What's for Work, or maybe talk with Teri web show, or meet you? How do people get to connect with you?
Well, the best way is what'sforwork.com. It's a free website for anybody. Now, even if you're just starting out and you're not sure where to go, you're not sure, does this LinkedIn is kind of scary, and I strongly encourage everybody to be out there, but sometimes we're just not ready. I kept What's for Work 100% free for those members that just are looking to figure out how to get back into the workforce or how to make that transition or what their message is. So once you become a member, it's 100% free, like I said, and there you can start to blog and create your personal brand. This is what I loved about it, is that you are so much more than a resume. And if you walk into a place and you're sending that resume out and you say, here's my resume, am I good enough? Do you want me? Wow, no. This is what your problems are as a company. I've done my research, and this is my unique solution. Now, isn't that more empowering? And so that's what that website, What's for Work, is all about, is to teach you to go in there with confidence and understand what is that company's problems or issues, because they all have them. The number one problem every company has, it doesn't matter who you are, every company, your first problem is I need more money in. So what are you doing to the bottom line to get more money in? I need less money out. That's your second problem. Every company, that's their first and second problem. More money in, less money out. And then they could have a slew of other problems. So what are those? Are you doing your research on those companies? And then how do you solve those problems? What have you been doing in your life that solves those problems? So that's what What's Work's all about. Once you get on there, you can connect and you set up a 20-minute free discovery session that goes right to me, my calendar, and we get on the phone and see what's the best solution. So whether it's coming into one of my programs or using the website, because if you're that woman that's on that brink and you're one paycheck, one sick day away from losing everything, you don't have the resources to get a resume writer and that type of thing. So What's for Work has 80 how-to videos on there, how to show up, how to get that next job, how to make those connections, what makes sense, and start to blog. You need a personal brand. You cannot get a job these days without a personal brand. And your numbers need to be up, because people are looking, they're Googling you before they interview you. If your numbers, your LinkedIn numbers aren't up, they're looking at that going, what's your influence? Your numbers, your influence is how many people you can tell about their company, their brand. And so that they'll almost hire somebody with a higher network than they will somebody that's totally qualified for the job. It's getting to that point. Because
right, it's your social, it's your social influence. That's so important, because we live in a social, technology world. Everything. Have you noticed the news? Just a couple of years ago, when you would watch the news, which I hate doing at this point, but when you would watch the news, it was like the news. You'd just watch television. There would be your newscasters. Now, if you watch the news, their Twitter handle is right under their name. And at the end of the show, they will say, continue the conversation online.
Right.
Which is, it's amazing transition that we're seeing, because just a couple of years ago, people were looking at me and saying, what? What are you even talking about? And now you cannot go anywhere without watching a show where there's not a hashtag or a Twitter handle or a continue the conversation online, because we want our news immediately. We want it now. We want it. We are the least patient community that I know. We want it now, right?
Yes. And there's every opportunity to learn anything online. I mean, Huffington Post said, hey, will you come to a Google Hangout? This was a couple years ago. And I'm like, sure. And I had never done a Google Hangout before. So I got online. I watched all the YouTube videos, and I got my team on. I said, we're doing a Google Hangout. And so that I learned how to do it. So you can learn anything, but you need to get over it.
Right.
And the answer is, as Nancy, you said, about the not getting fearful of asking the question. The worst thing that could happen is no. But if you don't ask the question, if you don't ask for it, it's no anyway.
Right. You'll never know.
So you've already, you'll never know. So get out there. have the
Absolutely.
confidence to say, hey, this might be interesting.
Absolutely. So we want to thank you, Teri, for being with us today. Nancy, any last words before we say goodbye to Teri and say goodbye to all of our listeners and viewers, and then we'll say goodbye.
Teri, I just want to thank you. You really are a gift to the world, and your generous giving spirit, and this is a takeaway, is that it's in the giving that's the receiving as well for all the viewers here. Rather than what's in it for me, to have a website so full of resources and information, there's no excuse for saying I don't know what to do. So I highly encourage the viewers to connect with you and your website, and then see what unfolds beyond. But I'm so delighted that you were with us today, and look forward to connecting with you again. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Teri, thank you again from all of us, because we know that we're very, very busy. You're very, very busy. We just want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today and to share your wealth of knowledge. And we want to thank our viewers and our listeners, because we know that you have a choice as to how you want to spend your time, and we are so happy that you chose to spend it with us. So as we do every week, we wish you an awesome day, and we look forward to seeing you next week on the next episode of Connecting People, Changing Lives. Goodbye, everyone.